Maya Thompson's sneakers squeaked against the polished airport floor as she half walked, half ran through the crowded terminal. Her carry-on bag kept sliding off her shoulder, and her laptop case banged against her hip with every hurried step. She glanced at her phone again. Gate B37. She was at gate A12. Why did her gate have to be so far away? The morning had already been a disaster. Her alarm hadn't gone off. Then traffic on the highway had been backed up for miles because of an accident. She'd barely made it through security, practically throwing her belongings into those gray bins while the TSA agent gave her an impatient look. Now she had maybe 25 minutes before boarding closed, and she still had to get to the other side of the airport. This wasn't just any flight. This was the flight that could change everything. 6 months she'd been trying to land Mitchell and Associates as a client. 6 months of emails, phone calls, and finally, they'd agreed to meet with her. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock sharp at their Manhattan office. If she missed this flight, she'd miss that meeting. And if she missed that meeting, well, she didn't want to think about that. Her consulting business was barely hanging on, 3 months behind on her office rent. Her savings account was looking sadder every time she checked it. She'd started doing freelance work on the side just to pay her personal bills. Her mother kept suggesting she just get a regular job with benefits and a steady paycheck, and honestly, Maya was starting to think she might be right. But this meeting could turn it all around. One big client, that's all she needed. Just one. She dodged around a family with 3 kids and a mountain of luggage, mumbling apologies as she went. The father gave her an annoyed look. She didn't care. Gate B37, just get to gate B37. That's when she saw him. An older man, maybe in his 70s, was on his hands and knees near a coffee shop, trying to gather up things that had spilled from his bag. A wallet, some papers, little orange prescription bottles rolling in different directions. People walked past him. Some glanced down, but nobody stopped. Everyone had somewhere to be, just like Maya. She should keep going. She really should. Gate B37 wasn't going to get any closer, and time wasn't going to slow down for her. But the man looked so lost. He was wearing a nice suit, probably expensive, but it was wrinkled like he'd been traveling for a long time. His hands were shaking as he reached for one of the pill bottles. He grabbed it, then paused, and Maya could see him taking deep breaths like he was trying to steady himself. 20 minutes. She had 20 minutes. The man tried to push himself up to his feet using the wall for support. His face had gone pale, almost gray, and he swayed a little as he stood. Then his hand went to his chest, pressing against it, and Maya saw real fear flash across his face. Her feet stopped moving before her brain had fully decided. She stood there for just a second, frozen between her gate and this stranger who needed help. Her phone buzzed. Probably a notification about her flight. Gate closing soon. The man stumbled, catching himself against the wall. That did it. Maya turned and rushed toward him, her bag sliding off her shoulders as she knelt down beside him. Sir? Sir, are you okay? She touched his arm gently. Up close, she could see sweat beading on his forehead. His breathing was shallow and quick. I'm fine, he said, but his voice came out weak and shaky. Just need to sit down for a minute. Okay, let's get you to a chair. Can you walk? Maya looked around and spotted some seats near the coffee shop. She helped him shuffle over, supporting most of his weight. He was heavier than he looked, and she struggled a bit, but they made it. He practically collapsed into the chair. Maya knelt down and started gathering his things. 2 prescription bottles, reading glasses, a leather wallet, some business papers, a phone with a cracked screen. She brought everything over and set it on the chair next to him. What happened? She asked, pulling out the chair across from him and sitting down. Did you fall? No. Just got dizzy. He closed his eyes and leaned his head back against the wall. Haven't eaten since yesterday. Been in meetings all night. Flying back home and I forgot to take my medication this morning. Maya looked at the prescription bottles. One was for blood pressure. The other she didn't recognize. Which one do you need? He opened his eyes and pointed with a shaking finger at the blood pressure medication. That one. But I need water. Can't take it dry. Stay right here. Don't move. Maya jumped up and rushed to the coffee shop. There was a line, of course there was a line, and she bounced on her toes impatiently while the person in front of her ordered some complicated drink with extra this and no that. Finally, she got to the counter and ordered a bottle of water and a sandwich. The cashier moved like she had all day. Maya checked her phone while she waited. 15 minutes until boarding closed. Her stomach dropped. Even if she left right now, Even if she ran the whole way, she might not make it. The cashier handed her the water and sandwich. Maya practically threw her credit card at her, grabbed the bag and rushed back to the old man. He was still there, thank God, still pressed back against the wall with his eyes closed. She opened the water bottle for him and handed it over along with his medication. His hands were still shaking, but he managed to get the pill in his mouth and wash it down with water. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You're very kind. When's the last time you ate?" Maya pulled the sandwich out of the bag and unwrapped it. "Turkey and cheese." She handed it to him. "You need to eat something. I couldn't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm telling you to eat." Maya smiled at him, trying to be gentle but firm. "You scared me half to death." "Eat the sandwich." He took a small bite, then another. Some color started coming back to his face. Maya sat back down across from him and checked her phone again. 12 minutes, she could still make it. Maybe. If she left right now. If she ran really, really fast. But looking at him, seeing how weak he still looked, she knew she couldn't leave him alone. Not yet. What if he got dizzy again? What if he fell and hit his head? What if something worse happened? "Do you have someone you can call?" she asked. "Family? A friend who can come help you?" He shook his head. "Everyone's back home. I was traveling for business." He took another bite of the sandwich and studied her face. "You look worried about something. Do you have a flight to catch?" Maya hesitated. "It's fine. Don't worry about it. You do, don't you?" He glanced at her carry-on bag and laptop case. "What time?" "Really, it's okay. What time?" "They close boarding in about 10 minutes, Maya admitted. She tried to smile like it wasn't a big deal, but her voice cracked a little. "But it's just a business meeting. I can reschedule." The lie tasted bitter in her mouth. She couldn't reschedule. Mitchell and Associates had made it clear this was their only available slot for weeks. If she missed it, they'd move on to someone else. One of her competitors who actually showed up on time. "Where are you flying to?" he asked. "New York." Maya pulled out her phone and started looking for medical help. "But listen, we need to get you checked out. Let me call for airport medical services. I'm feeling better already. You just had a dizzy spell and chest pains. We're getting you checked out." Maya dialed the airport medical emergency line. It rang and rang before someone finally picked up. The conversation took longer than she expected. Yes, it was an emergency. No, he wasn't unconscious. Yes, he was elderly. Yes, he'd taken his medication. They'd send someone, but there had been another medical emergency earlier and it might take 15 to 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Maya looked at her phone. 8 minutes until her gate closed. It was over. She'd missed it. She'd missed her flight and probably her meeting and probably her one big chance to save her business. The old man was watching her, and she could see he understood. "You should go," he said softly. "I'm fine now, really. You should catch your flight." "The paramedics will be here soon," Maya said, not answering his suggestion. "And you still look shaky." "I'm staying until they get here. But your meeting will have to wait." Maya sat back in her chair and tried to look calm, even though her heart was pounding and her eyes were starting to burn with tears. She refused to let fall. Some things are more important than meetings. They sat in silence for a few minutes while he finished the sandwich. Maya watched travelers hurrying past, all of them rushing to catch their own flights, chasing their own dreams and deadlines. None of them looked over. She wondered if she would have stopped if she'd seen someone else helping him. Would she have just walked by, relieved that someone else was handling it? She hoped not. But honestly, before today, she wasn't sure. "What's your name?" the old man asked. "Maya. Maya Thompson." "Well, Maya Thompson, you may have just saved my life." He extended his hand and she shook it. His grip was stronger now. "I'm Richard, and I'm very, very grateful. Anyone would have done the same thing. You and I both know that's not true." Richard gestured toward the crowds walking past them. "You're the only one who stopped." Maya didn't know what to say to that, so she just smiled. Her phone buzzed. A notification from the Airline app. Her flight had departed. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting herself feel the full weight of what she'd just lost, then took a deep breath and opened them again. It was done. No going back now. The paramedics arrived 10 minutes later with a wheelchair and medical equipment. They checked Richard's vital signs, asked him questions, and agreed he should go to the hospital for a full checkup. Richard protested, but they were firm, and Maya backed them up. As they started to wheel him away, Richard grabbed her hand. Thank you, Maya. Truly, you have a good heart. Take care of yourself, Richard, she said, and don't skip meals or forget your medication again. He smiled. Yes, ma'am. Then they were gone, wheeling him toward the medical center, and Maya was alone with her bags and her dead-end flight and her completely ruined opportunity. She picked up her carry-on, slung her laptop bag over her shoulder, and started the long walk back through the terminal to figure out what to do next. Maya stood at the airline counter, trying to keep her composure while the agent clicked through screens on her computer. The woman's name tag said Linda, and she had the tired eyes of someone who'd been dealing with frustrated travelers all morning. So the next available flight to New York. Linda paused, clicking some more. Would be at 6:45 p.m. That gets you into LaGuardia at 9:30 p.m. Maya closed her eyes and did the math. By the time she got her luggage, caught a cab to her hotel and checked in, it would be close to midnight. And her meeting was at 9 in the morning. She'd be exhausted, but she could make it work. She had to make it work. I'll take it, Maya said. That'll be a $150 change fee plus the fare difference of $89. Of course it would be. Maya pulled out her credit card, the one she'd been trying not to use because it was already too close to maxed out. She handed it over and tried not to think about how that $230 could have paid for groceries for 2 weeks. The transaction went through. Linda printed out her new boarding pass and slid it across the counter with a sympathetic smile. Gate C12. Boarding starts at 6:15. I hope your day gets better. Thanks, Maya said, taking the boarding pass. She meant it. Linda seemed nice, and it wasn't her fault that Maya had made the choice to help a stranger instead of catching her flight. Maya found a quiet corner of the airport near her new gate and collapsed into a chair. 6 hours. She had 6 hours to kill. She pulled out her laptop and stared at the screen, trying to gather the courage to make the call she needed to make. Her phone sat on the armrest, looking innocent. Just pick it up. Dial the number. Explain what happened. Simple. Except it wasn't simple at all. Maya picked up her phone and pulled up the contact. David Mitchell, the managing partner at Mitchell & Associates. The man who could save her business or watch it sink, depending on how this conversation went. She pressed the call button before she could chicken out. It rang 3 times. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Maybe he wouldn't answer. Maybe she'd get his voicemail and she could just leave a message and... David Mitchell speaking. Mr. Mitchell, hi, this is Maya Thompson. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. I'm calling about our meeting tomorrow morning. Yes, 9 o'clock, looking forward to it. This was it. The moment where her whole professional life could come crashing down. I'm so sorry, but I'm going to need to come a bit later than planned. I had an emergency this morning and missed my original flight. I'm on the evening flight now, so I'll be landing tonight instead of this afternoon. Would it be possible to push our meeting to, say, 11 o'clock? There was a pause. A long, painful pause that made Maya's stomach twist into knots. An emergency? His tone had cooled several degrees. What kind of emergency? Maya's mind raced. Should she tell him the truth? Would he think she was irresponsible for stopping to help someone and missing her flight? Would he think she was lying? A medical situation, she said carefully. Someone needed help. I'm sorry for any inconvenience. Another pause. Well, I appreciate the call, but 11 o'clock doesn't work for my schedule. I have back-to-back meetings all day tomorrow, and I specifically cleared my morning for this. I understand. What about later this week? I'm flexible. Ms. Thompson, I'm going to be honest with you. We've been in conversations with 3 different consulting firms. We agreed to meet with you because your proposal showed promise, but punctuality and reliability are crucial in our line of work. If you can't make it to the initial meeting on time, how can we trust you'll meet project deadlines? Maya felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. Mr. Mitchell, I completely understand your concerns, and I can assure you this was a one-time situation. My track record shows, I'm sure it does. Tell you what, I'll keep your information on file, and if we need additional options in the future, we'll reach out. But for now, I think we're going to move forward with the firms who can meet our timeline. I'm sorry. Mr. Mitchell, please, if I could just... I have another call coming in. Best of luck to you, Miss Thompson. The line went dead. Maya sat there, phone pressed to her ear, staring at nothing. She slowly lowered the phone and set it on her lap. Her hands were shaking. That was it. 6 months of work, gone. Just like that. Because she'd stopped to help someone. Because she'd made a choice to be a decent human being instead of a ruthless businesswoman. The tears came then, hot and angry and frustrated. She pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to stop them, but they kept coming anyway. She was sitting in an airport, crying in public like a complete mess, and she couldn't even bring herself to care. Everything she'd worked for. The long nights, the early mornings, the weekends spent writing proposals and making calls. All the time she'd told herself it would pay off eventually, that she just needed to land that one big client. And she'd been so close. So close. A woman walking by with a small child gave her a concerned look but kept moving. Maya took a deep, shaky breath and forced herself to stop crying. Falling apart in the middle of the airport wasn't going to help anything. She pulled herself together, wiping her face with her sleeve. Her makeup was probably a disaster, but whatever. She grabbed her laptop and opened it, pulling up her email. If Mitchell & Associates was out, she needed to focus on her other prospects. Maybe the small consulting job she'd been putting off would still be available. It wouldn't save her business, but it might keep the lights on for another month. She started typing an email to another potential client, but the words looked blurry on the screen. She couldn't focus. Her mind kept replaying the morning over and over. Richard's pale face, his shaking hands, the way he'd pressed his hand to his chest. What if she'd kept walking? What if he'd collapsed right there in the middle of the terminal and hit his head? What if he'd had a heart attack? But also, what if she'd just helped him sit down, made sure someone called for medical help, and then caught her flight? Would that have been so terrible? She could have been a good person and still made it to her gate. Maya closed her laptop and leaned back in her chair. The airport hummed around her with constant activity, announcements over the intercom about flights boarding and last calls, families reuniting with squeals and hugs, business travelers rushing past with their roller bags and coffee cups. Everyone had somewhere to be. Everyone was chasing something. Her phone buzzed with an email notification. She glanced at it, expecting another rejection or a bill she couldn't pay. Instead, it was from the airline. A customer satisfaction survey about her experience with Skybridge Airlines today. Maya almost laughed. Her experience? Where should she start? With missing her flight? With watching her biggest opportunity disappear? With sitting here for 6 hours, wondering how she was going to pay rent next month? She opened the email anyway, curious, despite herself. The survey was pretty standard. Rate your experience from 1 to 5. How was the check-in process? How was the gate agent? Would you recommend Skybridge Airlines to a friend? Maya stared at the question about the gate agent. She thought about Linda, who'd helped her book the new flight with sympathy in her eyes. She could have been rude. She could have made Maya feel even worse about missing her flight. But she'd been kind. Then Maya thought about the original gate agent, the one who'd closed the door on her opportunity. She could rate the whole experience terribly. She could write a scathing review about inflexibility and poor customer service and how they'd ruined her business prospects. Her finger hovered over the 1-star rating. But it wasn't really the gate agent's fault, was it? The flight had rules. Boarding closed when it closed. They couldn't hold an entire plane full of people because Maya had made a choice to help someone. That wasn't fair to all the other passengers who'd shown up on time. Maya selected 3 stars. Neutral. Fair. She left the comment section blank and submitted the survey. She had 4 more hours until her flight. She bought an overpriced sandwich from one of the airport restaurants and forced herself to eat it, even though her stomach was in knots. She tried to work on her laptop but gave up after 30 minutes of staring at the same paragraph without actually reading it. Eventually, she just people-watched. A young couple arguing quietly near the charging station. A businessman shouting into his phone about a deal gone wrong. A grandmother with 4 grandkids, all of them running in circles while she tried to keep track of them. An elderly man in a wheelchair being pushed by an airport employee. Every time she saw someone who looked like they might need help, She wondered if she'd stop again, if she had a second chance. At this morning, knowing what it would cost her, would she still help Richard? Would she still give up that flight and that meeting and possibly her whole business? She wanted to think she would. She wanted to believe she was the kind of person who'd make the same choice every time. But sitting here in this airport watching her dreams circle the drain, she honestly wasn't sure. The hours crawled by. Maya's phone battery dropped to 20%. She bought an overpriced charging cable from a kiosk. She went to the bathroom and tried to fix her makeup. She checked her email every 10 minutes, hoping for some miracle, some other opportunity, something to make this awful day worth it. Nothing came. Finally, mercifully, they called her flight for boarding. Maya gathered her things and joined the line, feeling like a zombie going through the motions. She handed over her boarding pass, walked down the jet bridge, found her seat. The plane was packed. She'd gotten a middle seat, of course, squeezed between a large man who immediately claimed both armrests and a teenager who put in earbuds and closed his eyes before takeoff. Maya wedged herself into the narrow space and buckled her seatbelt. The flight attendant went through the safety demonstration. Maya had heard it 1,000 times. She closed her eyes and let the words wash over her without really hearing them. The plane taxied to the runway. The engines roared. They lifted off, leaving Atlanta behind. Maya pressed her forehead against the back of the seat in front of her, and finally let herself fully feel the weight of what had happened. The fear when she'd seen Richard struggling, the choice she'd made, the conversation with Mitchell that had destroyed her hopes, the long, terrible hours in the airport wondering what she was going to do next. She must have fallen asleep because the next thing she knew, the flight attendant was gently touching her shoulder. "Ma'am, we're landing in 10 minutes. You need to put your seatbelt back on." Maya hadn't even realized she'd unbuckled it. She fastened it again and blinked, disoriented. The large man next to her was gone, and the teenager was awake, looking at his phone. "You slept the whole flight," the flight attendant said with a kind smile. "You must have been exhausted." "Yeah," Maya said, her voice hoarse. "Long day." The flight attendant started to move on, then paused and came back. She leaned down and spoke quietly. "I was told to make sure you were comfortable during the flight. Mr. Brennan wanted you to be well taken care of." Maya blinked at her, confused. "Who?" But the flight attendant just smiled and moved on to check on other passengers. "Mr. Brennan?" Maya didn't know anyone named Brennan. She must have misheard. She was still half asleep and confused. The plane landed smoothly at LaGuardia. Maya gathered her things and shuffled off with everyone else, her mind already turning to the logistics of getting to her hotel. It was almost 10 o'clock. She'd grab her bags, catch a cab, check in, and collapse. Tomorrow she'd figure out how to pick up the pieces of her life. But at least Richard was safe. At least there was that. The hotel room was small and dated, with thin walls and a bathroom light that flickered. But it was clean and cheap, and that's all Maya could afford right now. She dropped her bags on the floor and fell onto the bed, still wearing her clothes and shoes. Every part of her ached with exhaustion that went deeper than just physical tiredness. Her phone buzzed. A text from her best friend, Kelly. "How did the meeting go?" Maya stared at the message. She didn't have the energy to explain everything right now. She typed back, "Didn't happen. Long story. We'll call you tomorrow." 3 dots appeared immediately. Kelly was typing. Then they disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "You okay?" "Yeah, just tired. Talk tomorrow. Love you." "Love you too." Maya set her phone on the nightstand and closed her eyes. She should take a shower. She should order food. She should do a lot of things. Instead, she just lay there, staring at the water-stained ceiling and listening to the sounds of the city through the thin walls. A car horn. Someone shouting. A siren in the distance. She thought about her business. About the office space she couldn't really afford anymore. About the website hosting fees and the software subscriptions and all the other little expenses that added up. About her apartment back in Chicago, and the rent that was due in 2 weeks, and the number in her bank account that made her stomach hurt to look at. Maybe her mother was right. Maybe it was time to give up on the dream and get a real job. Something stable, something with health insurance and paid vacation days and a boss who told her what to do, so she didn't have to make these impossible choices anymore. Maya rolled onto her side and pulled her knees to her chest. She was 32 years old and felt like a complete failure, but Richard's face kept coming back to her. The way his hand had shaken when he'd tried to pick up his medication, the gray color his skin had turned, the fear in his eyes when he'd pressed his hand to his chest. That had been real. That had mattered. She'd helped someone. Maybe that had to be enough for today. Maya finally dragged herself off the bed around 11 and took a hot shower. She ordered a pizza from a place down the street and ate 3 slices while scrolling mindlessly through social media. Everyone else's life looked so perfect in their carefully filtered photos. Happy couples, dream vacations, career achievements. Nobody posted about missed flights and failed dreams and empty bank accounts. She fell asleep with her laptop open next to her, halfway through updating her resume. The next morning, Maya woke up to sunlight streaming through the cheap curtains. For a blissful moment, she forgot where she was and why she was there. Then it all came rushing back. The airport, Richard, Mitchell, the whole disaster. She had 2 more days in New York. She'd already paid for the hotel, and the return flight wasn't until Thursday. She might as well try to make something of it. Maybe she could set up some networking meetings. Go to that coffee shop where freelancers hung out, something, anything to make this trip not be a complete waste. Maya got dressed and checked her email while drinking terrible hotel, coffee, bills, spam, a newsletter she'd forgotten she'd subscribed to. Nothing important, then she saw it. An email from someone named Jennifer Cole. The subject line said, "Meeting request, Skybridge Airlines." Maya's first thought was that it was spam, some kind of phishing attempt, but the email address looked legitimate. She opened it, curious despite herself. "Dear Ms. Thompson, my name is Jennifer Cole, and I'm the executive assistant to Richard Brennan, CEO of Skybridge Airlines. Mr. Brennan would like to meet with you at your earliest convenience to personally thank you for your assistance on Tuesday morning at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. Please let me know your availability, and I'll arrange travel and accommodations. We look forward to hearing from you." Maya read the email 3 times, trying to make sense of it. Richard Brennan, CEO of Skybridge Airlines. That couldn't be the same Richard she'd helped. That old man in the wrinkled suit who'd been struggling to pick up his medication. She grabbed her phone and searched for Richard Brennan, Skybridge Airlines. The first result was his Wikipedia page. Maya clicked on it and a photo loaded. Her breath caught in her throat. It was him. Older in the photo, wearing an expensive suit and looking confident and powerful. But it was definitely him. Same eyes, same face. Just looking completely different when he wasn't pale and shaking and sick. Maya scrolled through the article, her eyes getting wider with every paragraph. Richard Brennan, founder and CEO of Skybridge Airlines, net worth estimated at over $2 billion, started the airline 15 years ago and grew it into one of the fastest growing carriers in the country, known for his hands-on approach and occasionally traveling without security to better understand the customer experience. She'd helped a billionaire CEO, and she'd had no idea. Maya sat on the edge of the hotel bed staring at her phone. Part of her wanted to laugh. Part of her wanted to cry. She'd given up her biggest opportunity to help someone who probably had a private jet and could have bought the entire airline terminal if he wanted to. But that wasn't fair, was it? He'd been sick. He'd needed help. The fact that he was rich didn't change that. She'd made the right choice even if she hadn't known who he was. Still, the timing was almost funny. In a horrible cosmic joke kind of way, Maya looked at the email again. He wanted to meet with her. To thank her personally. She imagined walking into some fancy office building, shaking hands with a billionaire, accepting his thanks, and then going back to her life of struggling to pay rent and wondering if she should give up on her business. She could say no. She could ignore the email and pretend she'd never gotten it. What was the point of a thank you meeting? It wouldn't change anything. It wouldn't bring back her opportunity with Mitchell and Associates. It wouldn't save her business, but curiosity won out. Maya hit reply and typed a brief professional response. She was in New York until Thursday. She'd be happy to meet. The response came back in less than 30 minutes. Jennifer had already arranged everything. A car would pick Maya up tomorrow at 10 a.m. and bring her to Skybridge headquarters in Atlanta. They'd fly her back to New York tomorrow evening if needed, or she could fly directly home to Chicago. Whatever she preferred. Maya stared at the email. A car, a flight. They were treating this like some kind of important business meeting, instead of just a simple thank you. It felt excessive. But also, if they were offering to fly her back to Atlanta for free, she might as well take it. It wasn't like she had anything better to do in New York now. She spent the rest of the day walking around Manhattan, trying to clear her head. She went to Central Park and sat on a bench, watching people jog and walk their dogs and push strollers. She got a hot dog from a street vendor and coffee from a fancy shop that charged $7 for a latte. She walked until her feet hurt and her mind was numb. That evening, she called Kelly and told her everything. The whole story, from helping Richard at the airport to missing her flight to the disastrous call with Mitchell to discovering that the old man was actually a billionaire CEO. Kelly listened to the whole thing without interrupting. When Maya finally finished, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Wow," Kelly said finally. "That's wow. I know. So what do you think he wants?" "To say thank you, I guess. The email said he wants to thank me personally. Maya, billionaires don't fly people across the country just to say thank you. There's got to be more to it. Like what?" "I don't know. Maybe he wants to give you money. Like a reward or something." Maya hadn't thought of that. "I don't want his money. I didn't help him because I wanted a reward." "I know you didn't. But maybe accepting a thank you gift wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. You could really use it right now." That was true. Maya's pride wanted to refuse any kind of payment, but her bank account was screaming at her to be practical. If Richard Brennan wanted to give her some money as a thank you, would it really be so terrible to accept it? It wasn't like she'd asked for it or expected it. "Just go to the meeting," Kelly said. "See what he has to say. Then decide what to do." "Yeah, okay. And Maya, I'm proud of you for helping him. Even though it cost you the meeting. That took guts or stupidity. No, guts. You did the right thing. The universe will pay you back somehow." Maya smiled even though Kelly couldn't see her. "Since when do you believe in cosmic payback?" "Since my best friend did something incredibly selfless and I need to believe good things will come from it. Now go get some sleep. You have a meeting with a billionaire tomorrow." After they hung up, Maya tried to watch TV but couldn't focus. She tried to work on her laptop but gave up after 10 minutes. Finally, she just lay in bed staring at the ceiling again, wondering what tomorrow would bring. What did you even wear to meet a billionaire? Business casual? Full suit? Did it matter? He'd seen her at her worst, sweaty and stressed in the airport. Could it really get more awkward than that? Maya set her alarm and closed her eyes, trying to quiet her racing thoughts. Tomorrow she'd fly back to Atlanta. Tomorrow she'd meet Richard Brennan in his fancy office. Tomorrow she'd accept his thanks, maybe a check if he offered one, and then she'd go back to her real life. This was just a weird detour. A strange footnote in the story of her failed business and missed opportunities. Nothing more, except she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. Something big. She didn't know what or how or why. Just a feeling in her gut that tomorrow mattered. Maya pulled the thin hotel blanket up to her chin and tried to sleep. Outside, the city hummed and buzzed with life. A million people chasing a million dreams. And tomorrow she'd meet the man whose life she'd saved. And figure out what came next. The next morning, Maya stood outside her hotel at exactly 10 a.m., wearing her best business suit and the confidence she didn't quite feel. A sleek black car pulled up and a driver in a crisp uniform got out to open the door for her. "Ms. Thompson, I'm here to take you to the airport." Maya slid into the back seat, feeling completely out of her element. The car had leather seats that were softer than her bed at home. Bottles of water sat in a console along with mints and what looked like expensive chocolates. This was insane. All of this was completely insane. The driver took her to a private terminal at the airport, not the regular commercial one she'd expected. A woman in a professional suit greeted her at the entrance. "Ms. Thompson, welcome. Right this way, please." They walked through a luxurious waiting area with comfortable chairs and fresh flowers, and a coffee bar that looked like it belonged in a 5-star hotel. Then out onto the tarmac, where a small private jet waited. Maya stopped walking. "Wait, is that for me?" The woman smiled. "Mr. Brennan wanted to make sure you were comfortable. It's just a short flight to Atlanta. Please, go ahead and board. This was too much. This was way, way too much for a simple thank you meeting." Kelly had been right. There was definitely more to this than she'd thought. Maya climbed the stairs into the plane, her heart pounding. Whatever was about to happen, her life was never going to be the same after today. She could feel it. The inside of the private jet looked like something out of a movie. Cream-colored leather seats that looked more like armchairs than airplane seats. Polished wood tables. Soft lighting. A flight attendant who offered Maya champagne before they even took off. "Just water, please," Maya said. her voice coming out smaller than she intended. She settled into one of the massive seats and buckled the seatbelt, which was nicer than any seatbelt had a right to be. The flight attendant brought her water in an actual glass, not a plastic cup. This was so far outside Maya's normal world that she felt like an alien who'd accidentally landed in someone else's life. The flight took less than 2 hours. Maya tried to work on her laptop, but mostly she just stared out the window at the clouds and wondered what she'd gotten herself into. This wasn't just a thank you meeting. Nobody sent a private jet for a simple thank you. Kelly had been right about that. When they landed in Atlanta, another car was waiting. Another driver in a uniform, opening doors and calling her Ms. Thompson like she was someone important. The car glided through Atlanta traffic, and Maya watched the city pass by through tinted windows. Finally, they pulled up to a gleaming glass tower in the business district. Skybridge Airlines was engraved in silver letters above the entrance. The driver opened her door and Maya stepped out onto the sidewalk, craning her neck to look up at the building. It must have been 40 stories tall, all glass and steel and money. The lobby was massive, with marble floors and a security desk and people in expensive suits walking purposefully in every direction. A young woman in a navy dress met Maya at the entrance. "Ms. Thompson, I'm Jennifer Cole, Mr. Brennan's assistant. We spoke over email." "Nice to meet you," Maya said, shaking her hand. Jennifer had a firm handshake and a warm smile that helped calm some of Maya's nerves. "Mr. Brennan is very much looking forward to meeting with you. If you'll follow me, please." They took an elevator to the top floor. The ride was smooth and silent, and Maya watched the numbers climb while her stomach did nervous flips. 35th floor, 36th, 37th. When the doors finally opened, they stepped into a reception area that looked like it belonged in an art museum. Original paintings on the walls, fresh flowers on every surface, floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the entire city. Jennifer led her through the reception area and down a hallway lined with more art. They passed conference rooms with glass walls, offices where people worked at computers, a break room that looked nicer than most restaurants. Finally, they reached a set of double doors at the end of the hall. Jennifer knocked once, then opened them. "Mr. Brennan, Ms. Thompson is here. Send her in, please." Maya took a deep breath and walked through the doors into what had to be the biggest office she'd ever seen. Windows along 2 entire walls, giving a panoramic view of Atlanta, a desk the size of a small car, bookshelves filled with leather-bound books, comfortable chairs arranged around a coffee table, and standing up from behind the desk, looking completely different from the last time she'd seen him, was Richard. He was wearing an expensive navy suit, perfectly tailored. His silver hair was neatly combed. His face had color in it now, healthy and strong. He looked like what he was, a powerful, successful businessman worth billions of dollars. Nothing like the shaking, pale, frightened man she'd helped in the airport. But when he smiled, she recognized him. Same warm eyes, same grateful expression. "Maya," he said, coming around the desk with his hand extended. "Thank you so much for coming." "Mr. Brennan," Maya said, shaking his hand. His grip was firm and steady now. "It's good to see you looking better. Please call me Richard. And I feel much better thanks to you. Please sit down." He gestured to the chairs by the coffee table and they both sat. "Can I get you anything?" "Coffee, tea? I'm fine, thank you." Richard leaned back in his chair and studied her face. "I owe you an apology. I wasn't entirely honest with you at the airport. I didn't tell you who I was. I didn't ask," Maya said. "It didn't matter. That's exactly what makes what you did so remarkable." Richard leaned forward, his expression serious now. "Do you know how many people walked past me that morning? I counted at least 30. 30 people who saw an old man struggling on the floor and not one of them stopped. But you did. Even though you had somewhere important to be. Even though it cost you something significant." Maya looked down at her hands. "How did you know about my meeting?" "I didn't at the time. But after you left, after the paramedics took me to get checked out, I asked my assistant to find out who you were. I wanted to thank you properly. When we looked into it, we found out about the flight you missed, and then we found out about the meeting you were supposed to have with Mitchell and Associates." Richard paused. "I'm sorry you lost that opportunity because of me." "It wasn't your fault," Maya said quickly. "I made the choice to help you. Nobody forced me." "True, but that doesn't change the fact that your kindness cost you something valuable." Richard stood up and walked to the window. looking out at the city. Do you want to know why I was traveling without security that day? Maya nodded, curious despite herself. Because I'd just come from a board meeting where we were discussing our company's values and mission statement. All this corporate talk about putting people first and creating a culture of compassion and community. And I sat there listening to these executives use all the right words, but it felt hollow. Like we were just saying things that sounded good for our image, not because we actually believed them or lived them. Richard turned back to face her. So I decided to travel home like a regular person. No security detail. No assistant. No special treatment. I wanted to see what the real airport experience was like for our customers. And you know what I discovered? Most people are so caught up in their own lives, their own problems and deadlines and stress, that they don't see the people around them who need help. I almost didn't stop, Maya admitted. I was so focused on my gate on my meeting. I almost kept walking. But you didn't, that's what matters. Richard came back and sat down across from her. Maya, I've spent a lot of time thinking about what happened, about the choice you made and what it says about your character. And I have a question for you. What is your business exactly? What do you do? Maya blinked at the sudden shift in conversation. I'm a consultant. I help companies with their customer experience and corporate culture. Employee engagement, customer satisfaction, that kind of thing. Tell me about it. About your business. How did you get started? So Maya told him. About working in corporate America for years and seeing how disconnected leadership was from the actual experience of employees and customers. About wanting to make a difference to help companies actually live their values instead of just talking about them. About starting her own consulting firm 3 years ago with big dreams and limited capital. About the struggles, the lean months, the constant hustle to find clients and stay afloat. Richard listened intently, nodding occasionally, asking questions. He wanted to know about her approach, her philosophy, her methods. What made her different from other consultants? What did she think companies got wrong most often? Maya found herself relaxing as she talked about her work. This was familiar territory. This was something she was good at, something she was passionate about. She forgot about the fancy office and the billionaire sitting across from her and just talked about what she loved. When she finally finished, Richard was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. Do you know why I wanted to meet with you, Maya? To say thank you? That's part of it. But there's more. Richard leaned forward. Skybridge Airlines is growing fast. Maybe too fast. We've been so focused on expansion and profits that we've lost sight of what made us special in the beginning. Our customer satisfaction scores are dropping. Employee turnover is rising. We're becoming just another airline, and that's not acceptable to me. Maya wasn't sure where this was going, but her heart had started beating faster. I need someone to help us fix this, Richard continued. Someone who understands what it means to actually put people first. Not just say it in a mission statement. Someone who lives those values even when it costs them something. Someone like you. Like me. Maya's voice came out as barely a whisper. I want to hire your firm. I want you to come in and do a complete overhaul of our customer experience and corporate culture programs. I'm talking a full-year contract to start, with the possibility of extending it. You'd have access to every department, every level of the company. You'd report directly to me. Maya stared at him, her mind racing. This was insane. This was impossible. This was everything she'd been dreaming of and more. Mr. Brennan. Richard, I appreciate this, but I can't accept charity. I didn't help you because I wanted something in return. This isn't charity, Richard said firmly. This is good business. Maya, I've been looking for someone to fill this role for 6 months. I've interviewed candidates from top consulting firms all over the country. None of them were right. They gave me polished presentations and impressive credentials, but they didn't have what I was looking for. Then I meet you. And in the worst circumstances possible, you demonstrate exactly the kind of character and values I need. You showed me who you are when it mattered, but I'm just one person. My firm is tiny. You need someone with a big team, with resources. I need someone who gets it, Richard interrupted. Everything else we can figure out. We can hire additional staff for your team. We can provide resources and support. What I can't hire is someone who actually walks the walk. That's you. Maya felt tears pricking at her eyes. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen in real life. What would the compensation be? Richard named a figure that made Maya's head spin. It was more than she'd made in the last 2 years combined. More than enough to save her business, pay off her debts, breathe for the first time in what felt like forever. That's incredibly generous. That's market rate for the work I'm asking you to do. Actually, it might even be on the low end. We can negotiate if you want. No, it's more than fair. Maya took a shaky breath. Can I think about it? Of course. Take all the time you need. But Maya? Richard smiled at her. You saved my life that day at the airport. Not just physically, though you might have done that too. You reminded me why I started this company in the first place. You reminded me what really matters. I'd be honored to work with you. Maya nodded, not trusting herself to speak without crying. Richard stood up and extended his hand again. She stood and shook it, feeling the weight of this moment, this opportunity, this completely unexpected turn her life had just taken. Jennifer will give you all the contract details and answer any questions you have, Richard said. Take a few days to think it over. Talk to your family, your friends, your lawyer if you have one. Whatever you need. Thank you, Maya managed to say, for all of this. For the opportunity. Thank you, Richard said simply, for stopping when everyone else walked by. Maya left Richard's office in a daze. Jennifer was waiting outside with a folder full of documents and a warm smile that suggested she knew exactly what had just happened. Mr. Brennan asked me to go over the contract details with you, Jennifer said, guiding Maya to a smaller conference room down the hall. But I can tell you're processing a lot right now. Would you like some time alone first? I can bring you coffee or water. Coffee would be great, Maya said, sinking into one of the conference room chairs. Thank you. Jennifer returned a few minutes later with coffee in a real mug, not a paper cup, and a plate of cookies that looked homemade. She set them down in front of Maya and took the seat across from her. I've been Mr. Brennan's assistant for 8 years, Jennifer said quietly. I've never seen him so determined to hire someone. Whatever you did, it really affected him. I just helped him when he needed it, Maya said, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. Anyone would have done the same. But they didn't. You did. Jennifer opened the folder and pulled out several documents. Now let's talk about what this position would actually look like. For the next hour, Jennifer walked Maya through everything. The contract terms, the salary and benefits, which included health insurance so good, Maya had to read it 3 times to believe it was real. The team she'd have at her disposal, the budget she'd control, the scope of the project, the timeline, the expectations. It was overwhelming and exciting and terrifying all at once. This wasn't just a job. This was the opportunity of a lifetime. This was everything she'd been working toward for 3 years. Handed to her on a silver platter because she'd stopped to help an old man in an airport. You don't have to decide right now, Jennifer said, seeming to sense Maya's internal struggle. Take the documents home. Read through everything carefully. Talk to people you trust. Mr. Brennan meant it when he said take your time. Can I ask you something? Maya said, be honest. Is this really about my qualifications or is this about what happened at the airport? Jennifer considered the question carefully before answering. Both. Mr. Brennan has been looking for the right person to lead this initiative for months. Your background and experience are solid. Your approach is exactly what we need. But yes, what happened at the airport mattered too. It showed him who you are when nobody's watching, when there's nothing to gain. That's rare, Maya, especially in our world. Maya nodded slowly. She could accept that. It wasn't just charity or gratitude. It was opportunity meeting preparation. She just happened to have demonstrated her values in a very dramatic way. Okay, Maya said. I'll read everything and get back to you by the end of the week.